Sometimes, the work is so, you try to be true. You feel sometimes it's on the verge of a kind of craziness, but it isn't really craziness. It's really getting the truest part of yourself out, and it's very hard, I mean, it's not easy, let's say. And yet it can be very simple at the same time.
Welcome back to Musings with Mary. I'm your host, Mary Muse, and today we're going to be talking about tarot. I thought it was time for me to do a full episode about tarot because it's such a huge part of my spiritual practice, and it's been such a huge proponent of my self-growth and reflection over the last few years. Tarot can sometimes be wildly misunderstood or underestimated, and I think that my goal for today is just to open your mind if you don't really understand what tarot is, and to share what my experience has been with it. If you don't know, I actually am the headmistress of tarot for That Witch School with my friend Danny Wright from That Witch podcast. If you haven't listened to her podcast and you're interested in witchcraft, spirituality, or astrology, I really, really recommend it. She has been such a huge part of my spiritual journey, and I'm so grateful to be working alongside her in her witch school now. Every month I get to facilitate a monthly tarot circle where we sit in connection with the tarot and our intuitions to really deepen our understanding of ourselves and of the practice of tarot. And it's honestly my favorite day of the month. It is such a blessing in my life, and I haven't talked enough about tarot. So one of my goals for this year is to make more content around tarot and to share this part of my life with you all, because I've kind of shied away from doing it. And I think the reason that I've shied away from talking about tarot is that it is such a special and intimate part of my life. And being a I don't want to say influencer, but being an internet creator, an internet personality, according to Google, if you search my name, I feel a big pressure to convince people about the different spiritual things that I share on my pages. And I don't like that because I am really, really, really not here to convince you of anything. I'm more so here to share my own experience. And if that does end up opening you to having your own mystical, spiritual experiences with something like the tarot, then that's lovely. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I'm not here to convert people. I'm not here to, defend myself or anything like that. But I do really want to get past this fear that I've had of sharing this stuff, because I think the fear of judgment has held me back from sharing this very special part of my life. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to let that hold me back. So we're going to talk a bit about my journey with the tarot, which is very intertwined with my spiritual journey. And hopefully you can learn a thing or two. So I actually had my first tarot reading at a very difficult time of my life. And I've talked about this on my old podcast, Sex Work for the Soul. If you join my Patreon for free, you can listen to it. It's been a few years since I recorded that, so I think we're due for a recap again. So that first reading that I ever got was during a very difficult time in my life. I had just reckoned with the fact that the job that I was stuck in was not meant for me. And it was very difficult to go through. It was, at the time, it was the highest paying job that I had ever had. It was a promotion that I had gotten after years of working hard under some questionable bosses who ended up getting fired. And then, the higher ups in our company combined three people's jobs and gave it to me. And it was a lot. It was too much. It was not really aligned with what I was meant to be doing. And I really had a moment of reckoning where I realized that. And I dealt with a very, very deep depression at the time. I was on a new medication that was not working for me. And it was tough. It was really tough. I was very lucky to have my mom with me at that time supporting me. And one of the things that she did for me was take me to a Reiki healer. And that particular Reiki healer that I went to was also an alchemist and a tarot reader. So she pulled some major arcana cards for me. At the time, I didn't know what those were. And I didn't really believe in anything, actually. I believed in energy. So Reiki made sense for me, and I was open to it. And I received a lot of healing within that session with that woman. But the tarot thing didn't really resonate with me. I was kind of like, okay, like, thanks. It's like that video of the little kid that gets the avocado for like the present. And they're like, an avocado. Thanks. That's how I felt whenever that lady gave me the tarot reading. I was just kind of like, oh, like wanted to be nice and polite or whatever, but I didn't really believe in it or think that it was worth my time. So fast forward 6 months after that, when I had gotten my footing a bit after that difficult period in my life, and I found myself reflecting on that experience that I had. And I looked back in my email to find a little write-up that this tarot reader had sent me that had these long descriptions of what each of the cards that they pulled for me meant. And I had already read through that before and really didn't resonate with it, didn't really understand the significance of any of the cards when it came to my life. But 6 months later, as I read it again, I was amazed to find that, oh, this is what I've been going through. Like, this is a complete reflection of my life in the last 6 months. And it really blew my mind. And I started to really question a lot of things because I had been an atheist for so long. It was a very difficult process to open myself to the possibility that there could be some kind of mystical power that understood what I was going through, even though I didn't even believe it at the time that she had pulled those cards. So that was the first little spark for me. And I started to get curious. I am a Gemini sun, so I like to learn. And so I started looking for more information. So I actually found myself being fed collective tarot readings through YouTube. The algorithm started throwing these at me. And I think the first one that I ever joined in on was one of Jessica Alexandria's readings. Her name is Bahati Life on YouTube. I will link her below. And she was doing a collective reading. It was live too. It was a live stream. She used to do those a lot. And I joined in on this live stream and I started listening, and I was, I was actually like pretty skeptical even so at the time. And it was, I probably spent around 6 months just kind of tuning into these collective readings to see, like, what is this all about? Is there something more here? And I came to find over the time that I spent listening to Jess do these readings, I more and more started resonating with what she was saying. And not just in the way of like, oh yeah, I've been through something like that. That makes sense. It was like these very specific things that were happening in my life, she would bring up and be like, yeah, there's a person here that needs to hear blah, blah, blah. And she would say something and I'd go, oh, is she talking to me? And it was totally wild, blew my mind. If you don't know like what a collective reading is, it's whenever usually an online reader will do like a general reading with the intention of connecting with whoever is meant to see that video in whatever time they find it, right? So they set the intention that whoever clicks on the video is who it's meant for. And it's meant for more than one person, right? That's why we call it a collective reading. And it usually doesn't get very specific, but Jess, Jess is so talented. She's got such a banger intuition. Oh my God. And she sometimes would say things that were just uncannily connected to my life. So, for example, there's this one time I had just started experimenting with witchcraft. That week, I had decided to do a little bit of kitchen witchery for myself. And kitchen witchery is just whenever you do spells related to the kitchen, right? So it's food and drink, anything that you're making. Really, I mean, it just comes down to like, when food is made with love, it tastes better. That's the vibe, right? So I made this strawberry syrup from scratch, which is very easy. I mean, you just basically cook strawberries on the stove with some sugar. So the next day, I tune into one of Jess's collective readings. And, and all of a sudden, in the middle of her reading, she goes, I'm seeing strawberries being stirred in a pot on the stove. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? Keep in mind, I did not know this person. I have never, to this day, I do not know Jess personally. She is just a reader on the internet that I have connected with, right? I've never talked with her one-on-one. I've never had a one-on-one reading with her. I did actually end up joining her tarot school, which I'll get to. But, I don't have a personal relationship with this person. So whenever those kinds of things kept happening within her readings, is that she would get these little intuitive images and she would share them in her readings, and they would be so on point with something in my life. And it was these weird little small things like that that really started to open me up. And I started to understand that, like, okay, so maybe I could do something like this. Maybe this is something that I could actually do. And so I learned that Jess had this school called the Sacred Circle Tarot School, which was an online program that she developed that was mostly video based. She had all this video content about going into details about all the individual cards within the deck, which there are 78. So it was a very comprehensive course. She is a triple Virgo, I believe. So that means she has a Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo rising. So she's very, very detail oriented. So I went through her course and started learning more and more, getting deeper and deeper into the symbolism and esoteric meanings behind these cards. And, the rest is history. I'm very grateful that I found her. And she's not the only reader that I have really resonated with. There's a lot of readers now that I listen to whenever I need a little pick-me-up. But she was the first, and she was definitely the most impactful for me, because if I had not found her tarot school, I don't know if I would be the tarot reader that I am today. I think that her style of reading has really informed my style, and I could not be more grateful for that. So from there, I ended up finding Danny of That Witch podcast, and I did a mentorship with her where I learned all about astrology. And eventually, 3 years later now, I am working with Danny in her witch school as the headmistress of tarot. I've been doing that for the last year. And like I said in the beginning, it is so fulfilling. It is such a wonderful part of my month and something I really, really look forward to doing. So I'm just here today to share this stuff with you guys, because it is such an important part of my life, even though I haven't really talked about it that much publicly. I think that it is such an important part of my life that it feels like very intimate to share, actually. But like I said, I don't want to let that hold me back anymore from talking about these things. And I want to stress to you guys, like, the way that tarot should be used, in my opinion, right? So after I learned how to read and I started getting more and more confident, I started practicing with friends. I had one friend in particular that was learning tarot alongside me, and I was kind of like teaching her as I was learning. And that was so helpful. If you're learning tarot right now, the best thing you can do is to learn with other people and to teach each other and to give each other your perspective on the cards and to share in that, because it is always helpful to see somebody else's perspective on these cards, because you might look at it in a different way than they do. And their perspective might really open you up to seeing that card in a different light. Each card can be interpreted in so many different ways, especially whenever we're pulling multiple cards, right? So I started practicing reading for other people, with friends, for family. My mom has been so lovely, and a few of my siblings have been so lovely with letting me read for them. I've read for my partner a bunch. And then eventually I got to a point where I felt confident enough to start doing it professionally. So I began reading for the subscribers on my subscription sites. So that was for my OnlyFans and Fansly at the time. So it was mainly a lot of relationship readings, but sometimes people would come to me with, just self growth in mind as well. And I will be honest, I do. Even in my relationship readings, I am most likely going to be reading for your self growth as opposed to the other person. But that's just me. I think it's most important in a relationship for you to focus on how you can understand yourself more deeply, because when you understand yourself more deeply, you are better able to show up for the other person. And that's just what I've learned in my relationship, But anyway, I digress. I started doing readings for other people, and I started really gaining confidence in my ability to not only like interpret the cards, but to connect with my intuition and allow those kinds of messages that I received from Jess to come through for me, for my clients. And that was a hard thing for me to do. That was really hard for me to accept, like, okay, this thing popped into my head and it's kind of related to the cards, but it also is kind of not. Should I say it? Like, or should I just keep that to myself? And I learned over time, like, I'm just going to say it. If it doesn't stick, if it doesn't land, that's fine. Maybe it'll stick later. Maybe they'll reflect back on this later and go, oh, wait, she said that one thing. And now that kind of makes sense, huh? Like, I just learned how to trust. I learned how to trust in the process. And in that process of learning how to trust, it really helped me to feel more connected to my own spiritual practice. As I was able to share my intuitive gifts with other people, I was able to really believe in my own messages for myself as well, because I am a person that tends to go to other people for advice, and sometimes I don't take my own advice very well. So gaining that confidence and learning that my intuition was a very powerful tool was a huge part of my own self growth and my own self mastery. And that's why tarot is such a big part of my spiritual journey, because it taught me so much. And it also taught me so much because the cards themselves are so full of symbolism and esoteric meanings that it really informed my spiritual practice in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of astrological correspondence within the cards. There's some correspondences that actually align with a couple different organized religions. So we're looking at like historical connections in that way through these cards. There's just so many ways that these cards taught me how to see spiritual symbolism within everything in my life, not just within the cards, but within everything. And to understand like the again, the symbolism that can be seen within anything around us. And it taught me how to really lean into synchronicities and to have gratitude for those small kinds of things that happen. Like whenever you are stressed out or something and you're trying to find parking and suddenly someone backs out right as you're about to pass a totally packed parking lot and you get to have that little spot. Like it's those little things where like the universe hands you what you need. Or you see a certain animal and you know that animal represents something in particular, and that's the energy that you've been missing in your life. Or you see a certain number over and over all the time, and you understand that number corresponds to this meaning, and that meaning is very resonant for something that you're going through in your life. All of these things came to me through learning the meanings of the tarot cards. Numerology was something that I got introduced to through the tarot. Really, astrology is actually something that I got introduced to through the tarot because of the way that Jess from Bahati Life reads, since she was so intertwined with astrology. That ultimately is what led me to seek the mentorship with Danny, which is what led me to become the headmistress of tarot for her school. So there's so many things that tarot has just been like the spark for in my life. And I think that it can be that for so many people, and that it is such a valuable tool for self-growth that even if you're not a spiritual person, it might be fun. If you're open to it, it might be fun for you to get a reading. And if you don't resonate with the type of like collective readings that are out there these days, then I would recommend that you find a personal tarot reader to try out, because you never know. It really might resonate with you. That being said, I am not open for readings at the moment. I may become open for readings in the future. If I do, it will probably be through my Patreon. At the moment, I'm really on a break. On a very intentional break from reading for other people, because I discovered that I really needed to take my tarot back as a personal practice for a while. But I am happy to announce for members of that witch school, I am open now for tarot tutoring sessions, because the teacher in me is strong. I am a teacher through and through. I have a degree in teaching. I taught music and art and theater for many years, and there's always that teacher aspect of me. I am a headmistress of a subject in a school. So it feels right for me to open up for tutoring sessions for members of that witch school. Even when I was doing readings professionally, I do admit I tended to do my readings in a very educational kind of format. I like to teach about the cards as I do my readings, to really explain what the meanings are and why I'm saying what I'm saying, what these symbols really represent, what these elements mean, what this number might mean, what this particular court card might mean, what the major arcana cards mean. I always liked to really get into the nitty-gritty details whenever I did my tarot readings and educate my clients about what these cards really represent. So it just makes sense that I shift into this new phase of tarot tutoring, because I really love to dive deep into these cards. And I know that for people that are teaching themselves, it can be really hard. It can be really hard, especially if you have any kind of neurodivergence. It can be really difficult if you're, just doing it on your own and you don't have any kind of organized, course or anything that you're working through. I feel very lucky that I had the ability to join the Sacred Circle Tarot School, and I really want to pass on the, the foundations that I learned from there. I feel very confident in my ability to easily organize and explain these concepts to people. And I really pride pride myself as a teacher in my ability to adjust to my students' learning styles, because everybody has a very different learning style. You may find that you're more of a visual learner or an auditory learner or a tactile learner, and it is important to work with those things. There are so many techniques that I've learned over the years, and I honestly think that the time that I spent as a music teacher really lends itself to learning the tarot, because when it comes down to it, they're both a language. Learning music is learning a language, and learning the art of tarot is really just learning a spiritual language. And I really believe that, and think that the more that you're able to practice with someone like me who can help you to practice speaking the language, the easier it's going to get for you. It's really hard to learn on your own, especially when I think a lot of people that are learning tarot and a lot of people that are interested in witchcraft, unfortunately, kind of have to keep it to themselves, right? It's not something that a lot of people understand. And it's not really safe for some people to talk about these things that they're into, depending on where they live. And so I'm really happy to provide a safe space for people that want to dive more deeply into this practice and to practice alongside another person. Because just as I did with my friends and family, I think it's so important as a reader to practice speaking the language of the tarot, right? You can look up the meanings and you can do your journal work on your tarot readings and such, but if you're not practicing actually speaking the meanings out loud, it can be really hard to get from that pen and paper understanding to being able to actually share it with others through your words, right? And that's why I think it's so similar to learning any kind of language, because there's a difference between like reading a language and speaking a language and comprehending a language. And so I really like to integrate that concept into the way that I teach tarot. And I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited for this next phase of my life where I get to step into this teacher role again, because it's been a while for me. I retired from teaching music and such about 5 years ago. I do still teach my dad music on the weekends. We do piano lessons, but I am, for the most part, retired as a teacher. But this is my comeback. I'm here. I'm back, babe. And I'm so ready. I'm so ready to step into this role. So if you are a member of that witch school, please feel free to message me over on Mighty Networks to talk about setting up a session. I have more information in my bio over on that witch school. And I would so love to connect with you if you're feeling like you need a little boost in your tarot practice. If you're not a member of that witch school and you are someone that is interested in witchcraft and astrology, I really recommend that you look into the school, but it's not for everyone. So I will say that, if you're not interested in those things, then then this isn't for you, and that's okay. But for the people that it is for, I really recommend you look into it. I'm going to leave all the links down below. And if you are someone that would potentially be looking for a tarot reading from me, I'll suggest that you join my Patreon for free. I do not know when I may be open for readings again, but if I do open up for readings, it will be on there. So if that's more your style and you're more interested in looking for a reading for me sometime, then that's going to be the place that you're going to want to go for any announcements, future announcements that I might be opening for readings again. Not sure when that might come, but just so you know. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next episode. You can visit xoxo.com to see all of Mary's links. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all your favorite listening platforms. And if you feel inclined, leave a 5-star review for us. Musings with Mary is listener sponsored, so if you'd like to support the podcast, please check out our Patreon. Shout out to all our current patrons. Thank you so much for the support. We'll see you in the next episode.